Ah yes, the chickens have finally come home to roost. On this channel, as far back as last year, I've said there's something really off about the pro-Gaza movement. When Al-Qaeda affiliates, IS promoters and IRGC supporters gathered in numerous marches, and in fact ran many of them under fake names, I did often wonder, why isn't anybody saying anything? Especially the people around them. Well, now we know. ASIO has just confirmed that Iran itself, through the Revolutionary Guard, has been running influence operations right here in Australia. Not just rallies, not just online propaganda, but actual attacks on Jewish community sites directed from Tehran. Let's take a look at what Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had to say.
ASIO has now gathered enough credible intelligence to reach a deeply disturbing conclusion that the Iranian government directed at least 2 of these attacks. Iran has sought to disguise its involvement, but ASIO assesses it was behind the attacks on the Lewis Continental Kitchen in Sydney on October 20 last year and the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne on December 6 last year.
So what actually happened? It started in October 2024 when a kosher cafe in Sydney went up in flames. Masked arsonists struck in the middle of the night, leaving the Jewish community shaken. Just 2 months later, in December, the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne was also set on fire. Another brazen attack, this time on a place of worship. No lives were lost, but the message was chilling. Many commenters believe this was essentially an act of war. If you take away the religious and ethnic side of it, it sure is hard not to see it any other way. Iran had just attacked Australians on Australian soil. At first, everyone thought these were local anti-Semitic incidents. After all, anti-Semitism had spiked globally after the October 7 Hamas attacks. But ASIO's investigation revealed something far darker. These weren't just random hate crimes, they were directed by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC. Mike Burgess, the head of ASIO, said Iran's agents had literally and figuratively lit the matches and fanned the flames. They used a complex web of proxies to disguise their hand, hiring organised crime gangs in Australia, paying them through encrypted messages and cryptocurrency, and making it look like just another local hate attack. Prime Minister Albanese came out publicly, calling it exactly what it was: extraordinary and dangerous acts of aggression orchestrated by a foreign nation on Australian soil. And here's another crazy development. Australia hasn't booted out an ambassador since World War II. Well, Iran just managed to break that record. The response was swift and, by Australia's usual diplomatic standards, absolutely seismic. Within days, Iran's ambassador in Canberra was declared persona non grata. He and 3 of his staff were told to leave the country within a week. At the same time, Australia shut down its embassy in Tehran and pulled out our diplomats, relocating them to a third country for safety. On top of that, the government finally committed to listing the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. That will criminalise membership, support or financing of the IRGC in Australia, putting us in line with allies like the United States and Canada. And just to paint the scene, Iranian diplomats were literally filmed leaving their embassy in Canberra under cover of darkness, suitcases in hand. It was a dramatic image and one that sent a message. This isn't a symbolic slap on the wrist, this is Australia drawing a line in the sand. Of course, Iran didn't take it lying down. They furiously denied everything, claiming there was zero evidence and warned of reciprocal action. Their foreign minister went on television calling Albanese a weak politician, accusing him of trying to appease Israel. Which, let's be honest, is ironic coming from a regime that funds half the terrorist groups in the Middle East. But the thing is, none of this is actually new. Iran has been running operations like this everywhere. Take the UK. MI5 revealed they've foiled more than 20 Iran-linked plots since 2022, and these weren't petty things. We're talking kidnappings, assassination attempts, intimidation campaigns, all targeting dissidents, journalists, even British citizens. In the United States, the IRGC plotted to assassinate former National Security Advisor John Bolton. They also tried to kidnap Masih Alinejad, an Iranian-American journalist in New York. Across Europe, Iranian agents have been caught using local gangs as muscle. Sweden's intelligence service went public, saying Iran was literally outsourcing attacks to criminal groups. And just last month, 14 Western nations put out a joint statement condemning Iran's wave of assassination and harassment plots abroad. So when you look at what happened in Sydney and Melbourne, it's not some shocking outlier, it's just the latest chapter in a global playbook. This is a country outsourcing terrorism to local gangs. And the thing is, not all of Iran's operations are as obvious as firebombings or embassy drama. A huge part of their playbook happens quietly online. That's where influence, surveillance, and manipulation can creep into everyday life without most people even realizing it. That's exactly why I use Proton VPN and why I think you should too. They're based in Switzerland, outside the reach of US, EU, UK, and Australian law. They don't keep logs and are built by the same team behind Proton Mail. When the UK passed its surveillance laws, Proton VPN became the #1 app on the App Store. Their stealth protocol beats censorship firewalls. Secure Core routes your traffic through privacy-first countries, and NetShield blocks trackers before they ever reach you. I've used Proton Mail since Australia announced sweeping surveillance laws last year, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's now essential. If you want to protect your privacy and support this channel, hit the link below to get up to 60% off Proton VPN. Now, while some operatives were literally lighting matches in Australia, Iran was also lighting digital fires online. After the October 7 Hamas attacks, Iranian influence campaigns went into overdrive. Researchers exposed one called Emerald Divide, which had already been running since 2021. Within days of October 7, it pivoted to exploit Israel's internal divisions, pushing content designed to fracture Israeli society from the inside. Microsoft tracked another campaign, Storm 1364, which launched propaganda within days of the attack. The speed was insane. Fake personas, AI-generated images, deep fakes of soldiers, Telegram channels blasting memes, all designed to manipulate public opinion. They even pushed fabricated videos of captured Israeli pilots to demoralize Israel and sway global audiences. And it worked. Some of these fakes went viral faster than fact-checkers could debunk them. Iran today doesn't need tanks or missiles to shift the battlefield anymore. And let's not forget, Iran isn't alone here. Russia has jumped on the chaos too, pushing claims that Ukraine was arming Hamas, a narrative meant to fracture Western unity. The Gaza war became a goldmine for foreign disinformation, and the platforms we all use every day were simply not ready for it. So why does Iran do all of this? The answer is actually pretty simple. First, they want to undermine their enemies. Attacking Jewish communities abroad is a way of striking at Israel indirectly, and kidnapping dissidents silences critics. Second, they want to shape public opinion. Every viral pro-Palestinian meme that tips the narrative against Israel works in their favor. Third, it's a cheap power projection. They can't take on the West in open battlefield, but they can pay a thug in Melbourne with crypto to torch a synagogue. That's asymmetric warfare. And finally, there's plausible deniability. If they get caught, they just shrug, say it was locals, and cry propaganda, which is exactly what they did this week. ASIO said it took them nearly 10 months to trace a web of payments back to the IRGC. We're talking encrypted messages, cryptocurrency on the dark web, and layers of intermediaries. What we just saw in Australia shows how influence campaigns are evolving. It's not just bombs and spies anymore. It's propaganda, arson, and disinformation all blending together. Australia made a stand, but the question is, are we ready for the next wave, especially online? If foreign governments can hire criminals to burn cafes here, what makes you think they can't influence what people believe online? In many ways, that battlefield is even more dangerous. Fires can be put out, embassies can be closed, but once lies spread, once communities turn on each other, the damage is much harder to undo. And if we're not careful, the greatest threat to Australia won't come from outside, it will be how easily outsiders can make us tear ourselves apart from the inside. Hey, you made it to the end. As always, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and give the video a thumbs up. It really helps. A massive thank you to all my channel members and Patreon supporters. You're the reason I can keep making content like this. If you want to support the channel, consider joining the crew. Just hit the join button below or head over to Patreon. Even a small pledge goes a long way, and I would genuinely love to have you on board. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.